Hey, just when you thought the Trump administration couldn't get any worse, they do. Besides appointing judges that have never sat in a court trial, or appointing it as Secretary of Education who doesn't know anything about education, or Ben Carson. I'll just say Ben Carson. So just when you think it couldn't get any worse, it does. Dave Dayen tweeted this out. Friend of the show, Dave Dayen. He says the guy now in charge of cleaning up Superfund sites was Scott Pruitt's personal banker. Scott Pruitt's the head of the EPA. And the guy now in charge of cleaning up Superfund sites was Scott Pruitt's personal banker, banned from banking industry for life by the FDIC earlier this year.
Oh.
So there it is. That's a picture of the guy.
That sounds like a good
There's the fella.
You're too shady for banking, but we got a home for you in the EPA. It's just the planet.
Albert Kelly is the guy's name. So here's from The Intercept. Banned from the banking industry for life, a Scott Pruitt friend finds a new home at the EPA. The environmental agency has tasked a banker who was banned from the banking industry for life with oversight of the nation's Superfund program. Hey, seriously, why don't you just put Chris Christie in charge of nutrition for kids? Why don't that's coming next, right? Is that coming next? Come on, right? Come on. This is amazing. You're going to put... So in May, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation fined Oklahoma banker Albert Kelly $125,000, according to a consent order which The Intercept obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. The FDIC had, quote, reason to believe that Kelly violated a law or regulation by entering into an agreement pertaining to a loan by the bank without FDIC approval. Boy, you got to really be trying in this day and age to break a bank rule, because there aren't any. You got to be really, really trying.
I mean, I think the first banking rule is be a dick. That's the first rule.
Be a predatory capitalist
exactly.
and get rid of any humanity you have. 2 weeks later, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt appointed Kelly to lead an effort to streamline the Superfund program. Two weeks later, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt appointed Kelly to lead an effort to streamline the soup. Like, these guys are imagine if progressives were as brazen as this. It'd be like, progressive President Bernie Sanders appointed Medea Benjamin as Secretary of Defense. That's the equivalent of this, right? Mm-hmm. Except Medea Benjamin isn't a crazy pick. It's actually sensible. That you would want someone who's not interested in more war. But that's if progressive or lefties govern like right-wingers did, that's what we would have. We'd have Cornel West on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Right?
We'd have stuff like that. That's a real progressive, a real lefty. Righties get in, they do real righty shit.
Oh, yeah.
Lefties get in, they do righty shit. They gave us a corporate health care plan. They expanded the banks. They expanded the wars. They made the tax cuts permanent. They opened up the Arctic to drilling twice. This is what lefties do. They do right-wing shit.
Can I tell you, Jimmy, just where it says right there that Kelly is going to lead an effort to streamline the Superfund? I don't even know what that means.
Streamline.
Jimmy, are you going to lead the effort to streamline?
I'm going to stream this. Right now, there's too much red tape. What does that mean? What is he going to streamline? Means he's going to cut a lot of programs, I guess, that help clean up the environment. Mm-hmm. I think that's what streamline means. Streamline means we're going to, that thing that helped clean up the water there, we're getting rid of it. Right? That's what
streamline
this
means he's going to take a leak in every water well in this country.
In July, the FDIC went even further, banning Kelly from banking for life.
I didn't know that was something that could happen to a person.
So you can get banned from banking for life? Like, how come he's not in prison?
You can't work in this industry.
Oh, my God. No kidding. Why isn't he in prison?
Well, because, Steph, I'll tell you, because the bankers run our government. That's why.
And the EPA slogan is, give us, you're fired, you're corrupt.
But Pruitt, who had received loans from Kelly's bank, apparently didn't find Kelly's unfitness to serve in the financial industry as disqualifying his longtime friend from serving as a top official at the EPA. So this is what happens when you let Barack Obama open the Arctic to drilling twice. This is what happens when you let Barack Obama reverse a decades-old or 40 years old rule and allows now fossil fuel companies to export oil and gas to other countries. And what that does, that's why we have pipelines underneath our country everywhere, because of Barack Obama. This is what happens. So if you think this EPA guy, but Barack Obama was doing just as horrible stuff. He's going to let it play out in North Dakota. You remember that? They already spilled oil there. It's already happened.
Okay.
So you remember that? Do you remember this? So this is how you get this EPA. When you have a lefty in charge of our environment and he does horrible stuff like open the Arctic to drilling twice. Say all of the above, meaning we got to drill more, we got to have more fracking. This is what happens. People go, well, there's no difference. We got to break up this establishment. I'm going to vote for an anti-establishment candidate. I'm going to vote for Trump. That's what you get. And then, of course, Trump is worse than anything. But he's not an establishment guy. And people like that. So this is what happens. So I'm sorry, Steph, did you want to say something?
Well, yeah. So I found on EPA.gov from E. Scott Pruitt, administrator, on May 22nd, 2017, that's when Kelly had already been positioned. Albert Kelly was given this position, and I'm trying to find out what's the definition of streamline, but I can find some of the recommendations that they want to be established, and I think these two things trouble me. They want to utilize alternative and non-traditional approaches for financing site cleanups, as well as improvements to the management and use of Superfund special accounts. Don't know what special accounts mean. And the next bullet, there's several bullets, but these are the two that kind of screamed at me. Reduce the administrative and overhead costs and burdens borne by parties remediating contaminated sites, including a reexamination of the level of agency oversight necessary.
Can I summarize everything you just read? We're going to privatize things and give the contracts to our friends, and we're not bringing the scientists in anymore. That's exactly what you just said.
That's awful, right?
So the government isn't going to do the cleanups anymore. We're going to give it to private corporations. A lot of times, the private corporations who cause the spills or whatever the cleanup they have to. Right? I'm sure it's something.
Yeah.
Sure, we're going to have DuPont clean up their DuPont spill, and we're going to pay them to do it. Yeah. I bet that's what this is. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. And it's like, hey, is this safe to do? We should maybe consult a scientist. Nah, too much red tape.
Yeah,
too much
and then
oversight.
they'll go, it's clean, right? Is it clean? Well, the corporation said it was clean, so it's clean, even though it's not clean. And they got all their billions of dollars, right?
Yes. And
so there's another way to funnel government money to private corporations. And that's what this is. And guess what that's called? That's called neoliberalism. That's exactly what Bill Clinton did. That's exactly what Barack Obama did. That's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Funneling government money to private corporations. That's neoliberalism.
So this memo is all a bunch of lip service. You know, you can read between the lines. And one more bullet says, to improve the agency's interaction with key stakeholders under the Superfund program, particularly other federal agencies at the federal facilities and federal potentially responsible parties. Okay, and you skip down and it says, in addition, the task force should propose recommendations for better addressing the liability concerns of state, tribes, and local governments.
Yeah. None of this is good.
5 years from now, they're just going to refer to oil drilling as mineral liberation. They won't even call it. Yeah. We're setting them free.
Really, they've been trapped too long inside the earth, and they want to live and breathe free, the oil carbons.
They're tired of you treading on them.
They want to live free.
Okay, so again, keep this in mind. How do we get here? How do we get to this banana government? How do we get here? To this comedy of errors? How did we get here? Since 1980, we've been practicing neoliberalism in America, and it's been ramped up by Democrats. Democrats do more neoliberalism than frickin' Republicans, like NAFTA. That's a Democrat. Gutting welfare. That's a Democrat. Repealing the New Deal banking regulations. That's a Democrat. Crashed our economy within 10 years because of that. That's a Democrat. got rid of did the Telecommunications Act, took us from 50 giant media companies down to 6. That's a Democrat. And that's how you get Trump. And that's how you get this. And people don't want to hear that. People want to talk about Russia until Trump goes away. And then when Trump goes away, they're going to go to sleep again. Meanwhile, 63% of the country can't afford a $1,000 emergency. So, again, that's really important to not let your eye get off the ball like the rest of the goddamn country. They've already done it, which is why the Democrats are going to have mixed results in 2018. What do you? I mean, maybe it's too early to tell. It's not even 2018 yet. But if they keep going the way they're going now, which they are, I don't see them changing. Do you see the Democrats doing anything? They still don't have a fucking agenda. The Democrats don't have an agenda.
Other than to stick with their previous agenda, which will lose another 1,000 seats.
So they're counting on just exactly what Nancy Pelosi said after the election. She said the Americans don't want to change and that the government flips every 2 years in elections. Why is that? Because they want change every 2 years, because the Democrats didn't do anything for them. So if a party gets in power and actually does something for them, maybe they'll get reelected. You ever think of that, Nancy? No. They never thought, oh, you mean if we have a positive agenda that actually helps people, we'll get reelected instead of screwing the people over? Yeah. Imagine if the Democrats right now were pushing for single payer at the top of their lungs. Imagine if Barack Obama did it for 8 years. Imagine if every time Barack Obama got in front of a microphone, he said we need single payer. Imagine that. We'd have it by now.
Yeah, I was going to say we would have had it a long time ago.
We would have had it a long time ago.
We wouldn't be talking about it anymore.
And how come he never pushed for and the public option never brought it up again? Never brought it up. So imagine if the Democrats actually had an agenda like the Republicans do. Imagine that. And then when they got in power, they did everything to implement it. Imagine that. Right now, the Democrats won't even vote to save the DACA people. Right now, the Democrats rolled over on DACA. The Democrats did. So why would those DACA people, why will they ever stand up for Democrats? Why would they? Well, because we're not as bad as the Republicans. And that's exactly their plan. We'll be lesser of two evil, not as shitty as the Republicans. That's how you get this. That's how you get Trump. Do you understand this? This isn't new. I didn't make this up. Everyone knows this is how it happens. When the government turns its back on its workers and the majority of its people, you're setting the stage for a right-wing demagogue, for totalitarian. That's what's happening.
You know, Democrats give you nothing to vote for. Republicans give you something to vote against. And that's because there's one party, and it's the money party.
That's right. But still, you should write some more articles about Russia. You should write some more articles about Jill Stein and Russia. You should write some more articles about Bernie Bros. You should write some more articles about sexism and Bernie Bros. And
what about actresses that care about the environment? Ooh, they boil my blood. They're ruining this country.
They drive me nuts. So, that's of course, the message of this show. Neoliberalism sucks. Please make sure you're subscribed. If you can help donate, help support the show, please do it through Patreon or PayPal. We give you lots of extra content, and we do live shows. Our next one is February 16th in Burbank, California. That's a Friday night. See you there. Thanks for your support.